Hi everyone, I'm CBS19 Chief Meteorologist Brett Anthony. It's 8:43 on this Tuesday night, September 2nd, 2025. And we're going to bring you up to date on the forecast for the rest of the week. Look at the weekend, which holds a fairly high chance of rain. And then we'll also look at the tropics. We have a system out there that has a really good chance of becoming our next named storm, which would be Gabrielle. All right, top 5 warmest days this summer. And we officially think of summer going until September 22nd, right? But meteorologically speaking, it ended when we think about the way everything lines up in terms of weather records and the way the weather patterns behave. Well, it ended on August 31st. So the warmest day that we had between June 1st and August 31st was July 31st, 101 degrees. August 19th, we hit 100. This is in Tyler. And July 30th, it also hit 100 degrees. It was 99 on the 18th and 99 on August 1st. We're probably not going to get back to 100 degrees again this year, so this will likely hold. 3 days in Tyler where we saw 100-degree heat. Longview 4 days, and Lufkin no days, 0 days where it made it up to 100 degrees. That paled in comparison to these averages. Tyler usually sees 11 days where the temperature reaches the century mark, Longview about a dozen days, and Lufkin just short of that. Of course, the record, 2011, 81 days in Tyler, the temperature hit 100 degrees. In Longview, 73 times that happened, and in Lufkin that same summer, 63 days. August rainfall, this is what I think August 2025 is going to be remembered for. Maybe the cooler than average temperatures by a degree, but some of these rainfall totals for the month. In fact, Eagles Bluff over on Lake Palestine had about 8.5 inches of rainfall. Longview netted almost 7 inches of rainfall. Frankston about 5.5 inches of rainfall. Jacksonville, just to the southeast of town, 4 3/4 of an inch. Tyler about 3 3/4 of an inch. That's at Tyler Pounds, and then at Lufkin, just a little more than 3 inches of rainfall. Speaking of 3 inches of rainfall, that's typically what we see in the month of September around East Texas. Start of the month, we have temperatures in the lower 90s and morning lows in the lower 70s. By the end of the month, look how much cooler it is. About 9 degrees cooler in the daytime high and the morning low. 83 by the end of the month. Winds are on average out of the southeast at around roughly 7 miles an hour. The all-time warmest September day back in 2000 on September 4th, it was 109 degrees. Again, we're not going to do that this year. Rainiest day in September, about 5 1/4 inches of rainfall back on September 20th, and that was in 2013. Could we do that this year? Sure. The way things have been setting up here, we've had some pretty hefty rainfalls recently, so probably nothing out of the wouldn't be out of question to have that happen. All right, with all the rainfall toward the end of the month of August, the mold spores spiked today up into the 8,700 range. Weed pollen's starting to come on now. I think we're going to see more and more pigweed and ragweed in the counts, and if you're sneezing and sniffling, that is why. All right, so you have to have high humidity, you need warmth, and of course you have to have a little bit of rain, and we just had that. And now the next couple of days, I think, are going to keep those mold spore numbers up, especially Thursday, Friday, with temperatures in the mid-90s. But notice what happens Saturday. We dropped to 83. We have a front that is moving in, and it's stalling over the area. And with rain coming in along that front Sunday, the potential high is just 78 degrees. Monday, we're back to 80 degrees, 85 Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the upper 80s on Thursday and Friday. By the way, the Gregg County Fair gets underway late next week. It looks like the weather at this time looks pretty decent. All right, let's take a look at the future temperatures. We're going to start this tomorrow morning or Wednesday morning with temperatures in the low to mid 70s. We'll run this through the afternoon, and it looks pretty warm. We're talking about temperatures around 89 degrees in Tyler, upper 80s at Longview, lower 90s over Deep East Texas. Feels like temperature likely between 95 and 100. Thursday morning's a little bit cooler. The humidity actually drops. Some drier air getting funneled into the area from the northeast, and so that allows the afternoon temperature. Remember, drier air has the capacity to warm more than humid air, and so if we have that drier air in place, we have the chance to watch the temperature pop into the mid-90s Thursday afternoon. So we could be talking about a high in Tyler of about 94 to 96. I think this weather model here is just a little overdone. I think it's probably more in line of about 93 or 94 on Thursday and again on Friday. You'll note out in Dallas and Waxahachie it has temperatures close to 100 degrees. I just don't think we're going to see it that warm. But, you know, pretty toasty for the third or fourth day of September. We get into Friday, 93 for the high, in Longview, 92 in Jacksonville, 94 at Nacogdoches. Now the front starting to push into the area. You can see that little bit of orange. So that's the edge of the front that's kind of moving in for the weekend. So we're dry the next 3 days, maybe even Saturday dry. But we are starting to see some showers showing up here by Saturday evening, Saturday night with a 20% chance of rain, and then Sunday it's a 50% chance of rain. As I've said during the newscasts on CBS19, I've seen some data pointing towards 70% chance of rain. So we'll see if that trend continues. All right, let's talk about future skycasts. And if you're going to watch this on CBS19 News at 10 o'clock, again, we're going to have about 6 more hours of data here, but I can go out till about Friday at 1 o'clock with this. Then we'll get about 6 more hours of data. We might be able to start to see some of the rain trying to push closer to the Red River. But Wednesday afternoon, it's pretty warm, maybe an isolated shower over deep East Texas. And then that slightly drier air comes in on Thursday, so temperatures drop into the 60s. But then we really pop back up. Mid-90s Thursday afternoon, 94 in Tyler, 94 in Jacksonville. Maybe closer to the Louisiana border and up toward the Arklatex, we could see highs around 95 or even 96 degrees. Friday morning temperatures are warmer, humidity returning. Overnight lows in the mid-70s. Clouds begin to increase. The westerly flow, this is Pacific moisture coming in on a westerly flow aloft. That will increase the cloud cover, increase the humidity, and also knock a degree or two off the high temperature. All right, let's talk about rainfall chances. Friday out to the west, out toward Dallas, you're talking about a 10 to 20% chance. Once we get into Saturday, now we're looking at a 20 to 30% chance of rain, especially closer to Interstate 30. There's that 30% chance of rain. Now watch what happens Sunday. Remember, all that moisture is coming in from the west. And so we're going to break this down from east to west. You've got a 40% chance of rain from Jefferson and Center to Henderson to Lufkin. A 50% chance of rain, Tyler and Jacksonville, back toward Crockett, Palestine, and Canton, and then west of that, that rain chance goes up to a 60%. Again, I've seen this moving a little faster. If it does, we can up those rain chances Sunday into Monday. Rainfall over the next 7 days, pretty consistent data here coming in, and it points toward totals that could range from about, it's 3/4 of an inch of rainfall in these dark blue areas, maybe ½ inch of rain in southern parts of Anderson County, over toward Panola County and Shelby County. So that dark blue area, ½ inch of rainfall to 3/4 to an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter in some of those purple areas just across the border in those southern parts of Oklahoma. Could be looking at 1½ to maybe 1 3/4 of an inch of rainfall. So there's plentiful rain on the way, starting Saturday night, lasting through the day Sunday and into Monday. So it looks like we're going to get a decent drink of water as those numbers start popping on now. And this is what I was talking about, ½ inch of rainfall to about an inch, inch and a quarter across all of East Texas. If we look longer term into the middle part of the month, we do dry out. I'll explain why here in just a second, but below average precipitation is favored once we get into the middle part of the month. And the reason for that is we're going to start to build back in some of what of a summer weather pattern here. Is a big ridge of high pressure reasserts itself out over West Texas. The flow around that, this is a big area of sinking air that does spread over East Texas as the main branch of the jet stream retreats to more of a summertime position, a pattern that we've seen a lot in July and August. Well, it makes one more appearance as we get into Friday, September 12th. So this is going to be September 12th. You're looking at this warmer air coming back in. That's why I showed you those above average temperatures in that 8 to 14 day trend here. And that's what is showing up. So above average temperatures with that big ridge coming back in. And that's going to play out again between about September 10th and September 16th. The map I just showed you was September 12th, so firmly in the middle of those above average temperatures. All right, eye on the tropics. The Gulf is quiet. No worries of any type of cruises being impacted. If you have one that sails out of Galveston later on this week or out of New Orleans, or if you're watching from Tampa and you're headed west, you do have clusters of thunderstorms. Bahamas are quiet right now, so that's good for about a 4 to 7 day period of time. Once we get beyond 7 days, we'll see what happens with this storm system here. This could become Tropical Storm Gabrielle as it moves westward. There's a 70% chance of this becoming our next named storm. Now, remember where it is. Focus where it is. All right, so it's moving off the coast of Africa, moving out into the central Atlantic. Keep an eye on this area of red, okay? So what we're going to look for here is warm water. Is this storm moving into Water where the water temperature is at 80 degrees. Yes, especially the farther west it comes. It needs water temperature above 80 degrees, and it is getting there. It's in the 70s, and then eventually enters into the water where it's above 80 degrees. So 81 over here towards the Leeward Islands or the Windward Islands, you're talking about temperatures that are closer to 85 for that water temperature. So it's going to run into some water temperatures conducive, supportive of tropical storm formation or hurricane formation. Now, what about wind shear? The absence of wind shear is also there. The areas in green here show strong winds aloft that would tear the storm apart or prohibit it from becoming well organized. Well, it is forecast to move into that area where there is very little wind shear at all. So we will likely have Gabrielle within the next 5 to 7 days out in the Atlantic approaching the Windward Islands. So far, 2025, we've made it up to Fernand. That was a tropical storm. We had Hurricane Aaron, which was a Category 5 storm. The next one up, Gabrielle. After that, Humberto, then Imelda, then Jerry. And we are just starting now to see something that could lead to a more active second half of the hurricane season, and that is La Nina. The waters are beginning to cool in the Pacific, and that typically leads to less wind shear in the Atlantic over here. When that happens, those storms can make a farther westward track, and so we may start to see that with La Nina becoming more and more established. It may go back to neutral again once we get into winter, but as we head into fall, it looks like La Nina is starting to take over. Peak of the season, September 10th, a little bit of a drop, a secondary peak around October 20th, and then it falls off by the end of November. All right, let's talk about the forecast here in East Texas tonight. Clammy, calm, few clouds, stray showers still possible. You might have noticed one on the radar when just before I came on, there was a shower up around Mount Pleasant, so that is certainly possible. Otherwise, 70 for the overnight low. Tomorrow in the morning, we're warming up to 76 by 9 a.m., 82 by noon, 87, more and more sunshine, especially as we get into the afternoon. I have a feeling the daytime high tomorrow will top out around 89 degrees in Tyler. 89 in Longview, 89 at Nacogdoches, lower 90s again over parts of deep East Texas. Here's your Baylor Scott and White Texas Spot and Joint Hospital 10-day forecast. So if there's an isolated shower tomorrow, it's either in the morning or it's late afternoon in deep East Texas. Otherwise, 89, 94 on Thursday, 93 on Friday, 83 on Saturday, and then we have a weather impact alert for Sunday for rain and thunder. 80 degrees with scattered showers on Monday, mid-80s Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures starting to warm back up. Remember, in that 8 to 14 day temperature trend, we're going to see temperatures warming back above average. At least that's favored right now. So we'll probably, once we get into the middle part of the month, get back to some 90-degree heat. Certainly not done with the 90s yet. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great night. We'll see you tonight on CBS 19 News at 10 p.m.